I want to welcome the special guest we have for this show, and Danilo Bogdanovic. And this cast and this video are going to be up on YouTube. They're going to be on his channel and on his podcast. And in all likelihood, we're going to go ahead and convince him to let us put it up on our YouTube channel as one of our clients, and create a link back to his channel so you can subscribe. So. We're going to talk a little bit about Reston today, because that's kind of a really cool place that Danilo was super up to date on, and really understands the marketplace out there. He's an outstanding real estate professional in all of Northern Virginia, but I know that he has special affinity for that area. And so recently you were sharing with me, Danilo, that you checked out the 45-year plan for Reston.
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I was really intrigued by that, because I knew there was a 30-year plan out there. I didn't know there was a 45-year plan, and I guess we should clarify that 45-year plan actually not in stone right now, right? It's kind of being discussed.
That's correct. Originally, there was a 45-year plan by the founder, Bob Simon, but now there's a board of supervisors and 3 other different associations within Reston, along with all the developers that want their hand in the pot to do what's best for each one of them individually. So right now, it's I would say debate and turmoil are 2 good words to describe what's going on.
Okay, all right. So Reston is really a victim of its own success, is what we're actually saying here. And
Correct.
so you got your finger on the pulse of what's going on, and this may be a long debate, but there are a few things that we know are happening, right? And they're not really 45-year plan related, but they will certainly play into that. And so I just wanted to get an idea of your thoughts based upon some of the things we've talked about, and we'll get into those specifics in a little while, about what do you think the growth opportunity or the growth likelihood, and I don't care if we're talking about, population, if we're talking about, some kind of fiscal impact. But what do you think the growth is going to look like in Reston, regardless of what happens with the plan over the next, you pick the time limit, you pick the time period.
Well, I don't know if whoever's listening to this, if you're familiar with Northern Virginia, but the best way that I can describe what I think is going to happen is that when I was a little kid growing up, my parents lived in Falls Church for a while, and I remember my mom taking my father to the Ballston Metro station in Arlington, and I'm talking about when I was, 6 years old, which is 30 years ago. And there were no high rises, maybe a couple office buildings, and a metro station, and that's it. And Arlington went through a huge change after that metro came out, and it really impacted the area. Now, if you go to that area, I mean, it feels like you're almost in Washington, D.C. versus Northern Virginia. It's so urban. There's people everywhere. There's restaurants, retail, condos, $1-million condos. And here, 30 years later, I feel as though Reston is going to go through a very similar change over the next up to 30 years, if not faster, because of the metro coming out to this area.
Okay, all right, and that is probably the biggest change we know is going to happen. It seems almost inevitable based upon all the agreements and the fact that there's an awful lot of concrete in Reston, that we're not going to wait another 25 years for this thing, right? I mean, this is something that's going to happen imminently, right? So, so there's going to be growth, right? So right now you're talking about the growth of infrastructure, you're talking about the growth of business, you're talking about the growth of residential, all those things that have happened in Falls Church. There's no question. Everybody realizes that has happened who are local in this area. And so there's an impact that you were talking about, and that's really about the metro coming from the east to Reston. Any thoughts about the metro going west towards the airport and out towards Loudoun County? I mean,
well, the metro station at Wiehle Avenue is the last part of phase 1. There's going to be several, metro stations in Tyson's 4, in Tyson's Corner, and then we have them ending in Reston at Wiehle Avenue. So that's phase 1. And phase 2 continues on to Reston Town Center, Herndon, the airport, and then Ashburn. So they're really 2 separate animals and 2 separate entities in how they're going to affect each individual town as well as the county. I think phase one out to Wiehle Avenue will have the most impact because that's the primary link of Tyson's Corner and Reston to, Arlington, D.C. There's much more room for growth there overall than there will be out into phase two. And I think that the growth is welcomed more in this part of Fairfax County than it is out in the further parts of Fairfax County as well as Loudoun County.
Okay, all right, that seems pretty reasonable. And so, I noticed that there's huge changes out in Tyson's Corner. They've got all these plans for walkability. They've got crosswalks over 7 or under 7 or whatever's going on with that.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to happen in Reston? Are they planning that kind of thing? Do you think that's going to happen too?
Well, they're doing a lot of infrastructure changes, or redoing roads, adding lanes, adding bike lanes, walking trails, etc. They want to make the metro stops as easily accessible to residents of Reston as possible. This goes everything from, like I said, bike lanes being added on the side of the street, all the way to increasing bus service, changing bus routes, stuff like that. So Reston's a very green town, so to speak. So if you drive down the side street, you're bound to see someone jogging or biking. There's a huge bike club out there. So they have that
Sure.
mentality that they want to link accessibility outside of just cars to the metro station. So we're going to see that happening, and it's part of the plan for the metro. But ultimately, I think we're going to see even more of it once Reston figures out what it wants to do with the development part of it.
Sure. Okay. And there's been massive development in Reston already the last few years. I mean, we've seen amazing things happen in town center specifically. I'm actually going to skip out of order on what I want to talk about here because you kind of brought up the whole green thing, and I was going to talk a little bit about entertainment and dining, but you're really prompting me to talk more about lifestyle